Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the morning of Monday, or Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. And today I'm going to do a response to Secretary of State Blinken's address to the United Nations Human Rights that he just did on CNN, I believe. Had a little bit of it. Interesting speech, Secretary Blinken, but you forget one thing. The cause of all this mess is you, the United States. You put politics into the situation back in 1945 when you won the war. And instead of taking a few little times there and figuring out, okay, Russia's got the East, because you know they did, the Soviet Union at the time, you have the West, and the world is in tatters, and try to rebuild the world. You had an agency there that was a disaster, the League of Nations. You wanted it abolished at all costs because you thought that they were the ones that caused the problem. And you created the United Nations, a joke. As an alien from another planet, I can tell you that's not the way to create a United Nations. And then you put China as a nationalist country and Russia, and you gave them veto powers. The Soviet Union, that is. That was crazy. Why would you give the Soviet Union veto power and nationalist China, who really didn't control anything even in 1945? They were still trying to recover from World War II. So were the Russians, the Soviet Union. And they were in the process within the next 10 years of strengthening their hold on Western Europe and creating what you call the curtain, Iron Curtain. Yes. So here I go telling you, Secretary Blinken, your address to the United Nations was terrible. Number one, you should have thought and taken a couple of years to think about the replacement of the League of Nations, not just do it right then and there in 1945, just after the World War II, when nations were disastrous. And when you created the United Nations, not everybody is admitted to the United Nations. You should have had a goal, a prime directive, a human culture, based the United Nations on that. You never did that. Therefore, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is in the United Nations. So that's why Russia is in the Human Rights Council. Don't you understand that? It's not political. It's just your stupid way of thinking and doing things has come back to roost and bite you in the derriere. The United Nations should have been brought in as, okay, who has this way of thinking? That human culture, and you had to set up a human culture, you never did that. You never did a human rights. You violated a lot of human rights here in the United States. But yet again, you think that you're a number one dog of protecting human rights. You don't. You violate a lot of American citizens' rights here. Just come to live where I live and see how many rights you're violating here with the corporate level of doing things. If you can't succeed here in my own community where I live, how can you succeed in the planet? The United Nations is a flawed organization that's more or less the cause of World War III. And you got no choice but to fight World War III. Because Putin has pointed that out to you. He's got no choice. He can't back down. He can't go back home. He has to go forward, destroy Ukraine, and destroy NATO because you forced them the hand. When the Soviet Union disintegrated, you brought all those people, all those countries that were part of the Soviet Union into the United Nations. And then made them, most of them, part of NATO. Why didn't you bring Ukraine? Well, Ukraine was a disaster at the time in 1991. And it's been a disaster for most of its existence since 1991. It's just recently been what you call Ukraine. The people of the Ukraine have been suffering under the Russians for centuries. Yes, that is correct. But there is no nationalism there, and there is no human there. The Russians, the Ukrainians, the Polish, the Czechs, the Slovaks, the Romanians, the Albanians, and the Bulgarians are all Slavs. Do they get together? No. That's like the United States trying to get together with Republicans, Democrats, extremists on the left and extremists on the right. What is wrong with you, Secretary Blinken, going up there and doing that stupid speech like you did? You had to acknowledge your responsibility in this mess. Your administration, Trump's administration, Obama's administration, George W. Bush's administrations, Bill Clinton's administrations, and all administrations from JFK. Or I should say Truman. From Truman forward, every administration on this American government has caused what we are today. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter. You caused a problem. And now Vladimir Putin has let the body or the genie out of the bottle. And you can't put it back in. And that's the problem that just scares you. That you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Therefore, you're going to have to fight a World War III. But trust me, when this war is over, and it will be, and there will be millions of dead, 155 million will die in World War III. 155 million. And you got yourselves, the Chinese, the Russians, the Europeans, the South Americans, everybody on this planet has a hand in World War III. I've been here for 50 years. And there will be a group of us that were investigating what's left on your planet in 2030 to 35, and their report in 2036 to my home federation was the humans. They fought a dangerous war, and although they survived, they didn't learn a thing, because you did. In 2065, you were still as pain in the ass as you are today. The survivors, that is. In the United States, you didn't survive. So this is your favorite alien saying, come on, Americans, Europeans, and humans. Tell Russia you mean business. If you stand up to it, it knows it doesn't have the might to stand up to you. And if it uses nuclear weapons, that's up to them, because they'll lose, and that means that Putin has no regard for his citizens. So it's up to the Russians to do something about him. It's an internal matter. You just push them to do something about him. They need to have a regime change at the most here, and have a thinking at the most here. China does the same thing. They need to have a thinking. The Americans need to sit down and have a thinking too. Because your way of doing business doesn't work anymore, and you don't have a human culture on this planet. This is your favorite alien. Good day.